Okay, good morning, nearly afternoon, but technically still morning. So we're just going to give it a few minutes for people to kind of filter in while we wait to get started. Yeah, we've got a few more people registered for this webinar. I'm not sure if people got held in like a waiting room before they joined. I never really know how it's actually going to work with Zoom. So yeah, so just give it a few minutes so everyone has a chance to join. Okay, I will get started with the housekeeping stuff then, all the boring stuff, before we get into the useful things that you're actually here for, and then hopefully sort of while I'm talking a few people will filter in. So good morning, thank you very much for attending this session. My name is Jess and I'm helping facilitate this webinar as part of Linking London's Uni Connect work. So Linking London's an organisation who, as you may have guessed, is based in London, and we work on the project funded by the Office for Students, so that's the regulator for higher education in England. We work on a project that is designed to support students to make informed choices about their next steps, whether that's education, work, whatever it might be. So just a few housekeeping bits and bobs. This session is being recorded, so the recording will be uploaded to our YouTube channel in the next few days. It sometimes takes me a little while because my internet can be a bit temperamental, but the recording will eventually go up and you will be emailed a link to it along with kind of the slides from this session, etc. Please do feel free to use the Q&A box or the chat box at any time. I'll be kind of keeping an eye on those. So if you've got any questions throughout the presentation, please do feel free to ask. We'll also have a little bit of time at the end as well for questions. We're hoping to kind of run to about 50 minutes for this session. So hopefully that gives everyone a bit of time to then sort of go off with the rest of their day. So we'll be covering some of the key things to consider when choosing a course. Obviously this kind of session is about psychology, criminology and sociology, all kind of quite similar subjects, so you might be wondering, well, how do I choose between those? That's why we've kind of grouped them all together. So we've got two lecturers with us today to kind of explain what those courses look like at St Mary's University, and those things will be applicable to other universities as well, as the courses may be quite similar. We'll also hear from a mature psychology student, which will be really fantastic. She's a student ambassador and president of the Psychology Society at St Mary's, so it'll be fantastic to get her insight. And we'll also cover a little bit of kind of how to use UCAS Hub, and I'll also be providing some links to sort of more helpful sources of information as well at the end, and you'll get emailed those as well. So I think we will get started. So over to Dr. Carolina Scipiolino. Oh, I've really probably butchered that, Carolina. I'm so sorry. But yeah, over to you to talk about psychology.
Don't worry. Okay, thank you. Good morning, everyone. My name is Carolina Scipiolino. I'm at St Mary's University. I'm a senior lecturer and course lead for psychology. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about our university. I don't know if you're familiar with St Mary's. It's in Twickenham, Strawberry Hill, in a lovely compact campus. Had very good reviews, came top 10 in the country for teaching quality, second in London for student satisfaction, and top 5 for student experience. So the student seems to be very happy and satisfied. The campus is quite small and compact, is near London, is about 40 minutes to Waterloo, but it seems to be a bit in the countryside. It's a lovely green leafy area. Okay, I'm going to say a little bit about psychology. So if you are studying psychology, whatever you will be studying in the country, in London, you will be covering the main areas of psychology, which are developmental psychology, cognitive, biological, and social psychology with research methods. So these are the core area recognized by the BPS, the British Psychological Society. So this area will be covered in any degree in psychology, normally in the first 2 years, and then in the third year there will be, the modules will be more applied, and you also have the opportunity to do your own project. So the core area for psychology is 4 with research methods. So what is like to study psychology at St. Mary's? So we are a small friendly cohort, approximately 70 students, level 4, so in the first year. Staff, 9 full-time staff, they all active researcher with doctoral degrees, and they're it's a small group, so we get to know our students, and we see them quite regularly, also being, quite compact university, so we can sort of bump into each other. Okay, in terms of the psychology program at St. Mary's, you have 2 routes. One is the accredited route. So you can do psychology as a single honor, accredited by the BPS, or psychology and sport, accredited with the BPS, or you can do also psychological studies, which is not accredited. So the difference between these 2 paths is that if you go on the accredited route, you need to do the core subject, the core modules and research methods, and in your final year you will do an empirical project. So you have, in a sense, less flexibility in your first 3 years of the modules you choose, because you're choosing the core areas. So you will be doing 6 psychology modules per year if you're going on the accredited route. And if you are majoring in psychology, you can do psychology and sport, for example. You will do 4 modules in psychology and 2 in another subject, in sport or English, business and other. If you do psychological studies, you have, in a sense, more flexibility in the choice of your modules. So you can do 6 psychology modules, but you don't have to do the core modules, or not all of the cores. So if you're majoring, you do 4 psychology modules. If you're equaling, so with another subject, you do 3 psychology modules per year, or if you're minoring, just 2 psychology modules. Of course, the advantages of going to the accredited routes is if you want to become a psychologist later on, if you want to pursue further studies, a master level or doctoral level, it's much better to go for a BPS accredited degree. If you want to consider psychology as a general degree, or you're sure that you don't want to pursue further studies, you can also do the psychological studies. So you have these 2 options here as St. Mary's. Okay, let's see what you will be doing each year. So in the level 4 and the level 5, so in your first year and in your second year, you will be covering this main core area. So you will be doing introduction to social and developmental psychology, introduction to cognitive and biological psychology, research method 1 and 2. So we'll be exposed to quantitative and qualitative research methods. So these are your core 4 modules that you'll be doing in the year. And then you choose 2 more, one for semester, because you're doing 3 modules per semester. So 6 altogether in the year. And you can choose, you have a choice of 2 psychology modules, which are deconstructing psychology and everyday psychology, which expose to different areas of psychology, and you start to get to understand also other more applied areas of psychology. Or you can choose a sport psychology modules if you want to do psychology and sport. So in the level 5, you continue and you build up on this in this core area. So you will be doing the social brain and the developing mind. So the social brain is based on expanding on your knowledge of developmental and social psychology, and the developing mind is expanding your knowledge on cognitive and biological psychology. And then you will continue with research methods 3 and 4. Again, you will be exposed to both quantitative and qualitative methodology. So if you are doing psychology, you have also the choice of other psychology modules like frontiers in psychology, or you can do other modules like social psychology or sport if you're doing psychology and sport, or you can also do work experience, which is an interesting module quite liked by the student, where you can actually be exposed to some work experiences, especially in the field of your interest, and the university will guide you and support you in finding the right placement. So you will be developing some applied knowledge. So in the final year, yes, I just want to say a little bit about the assessment. In your first 2 years, in level 4 and level 5, you will do a variety of assessments. So you'll be doing essay, coursework, literature review, presentation, and some exams, not in the first semester of your level 4. But in the final year, the good news is you don't have any exam if you don't like them. You will be doing your independent project, so your research project, if you are on the accredited routes, plus 4 options in psychology or with the other subject. If you're doing psychology or sports psychology, one will be in sports psychology. So if you're not following the accredited routes, you will be doing 4 options, but instead of doing your independent project, you will do an extended literature review. So what's the difference between the two? So the independent project is something actually that you design, you'll be assigned to a supervisor, and you will be applied, you will be using methodology, either quantitative or qualitative or a combination, and it will be in a topic of your choice. And so it's an empirical project. So you actually go and collect data and you analyze the data. For the psychological studies, you do an extended literature review. So again, you choose your topic and you have a supervisor, but you're not doing an empirical project. So you're not collecting and analyzing any data. It's more a library-based project. Okay, just want to say a little bit about the project, the final year choice. So you can choose whatever. Okay, so in your final year options, you have a variety of modules. So they're all optional. So you can choose whatever you like among these modules, and they are not assessed. You don't have exams, so they assess all by coursework. A variety of coursework can be an essay, literature review, or case study, but no exam. So, for example, in applied child psychology, which I teach myself, you will be building on your knowledge of developmental psychology, but looking at more applied field. So in the field of education or clinical psychology, or issues that are related to that. In other modules, such as, for example, educational psychology, you will focus especially on educational psychology and looking at all the issues where psychology is actually useful for education. So for example, learning difficulties or ways of learning, more effective ways of learning, such as memory or different types of assessment and so on. So you can choose any of those. And I'm just going to say something about your final project. So in your final year, you will do these options with your project, and you have quite a wide choice in terms of topics. So you can choose really whatever you find more interesting. Our external examiner have commented on quite a diverse range of topics that have been covered in the third-year project, and quite interesting one. So you will produce a dissertation at the end, 6,000 2,000 words piece of work, and the poster. So you will present the finding of your study. So you can use either quantitative or qualitative methodology. And the good thing is that you have really the opportunity to choose something which really interests you based on your knowledge and research skills that you have developed in the course of the previous 2 years. Okay, so what can you do with a psychology degree? So you have, I always think that there are, lots of opportunities. You can continue further studies, and we have a master in psychology of mental health at St. Mary's. Our students have also gone and continued their study elsewhere in other universities, such as UCL, Goldsmiths, Surrey, Cambridge, and so on. And in terms of employment, quite a variety, because I think psychology is a very good degree for preparing you in different ways. It's certainly very useful for teaching. Some of our students have used their degree in psychology to go and become teachers, to work in the law enforcement, in the police, human resources, mental health, education, and the military. So it's a degree that you can take with you, and is a combination of science and humanities in a way, and give you the opportunity to pursue quite a variety of careers. Okay, I think I'm going to hand it to Nina. So thank you for listening.
Thank you very much, Carolina. This leads on nicely to criminology and sociology. Hello, everyone. Greetings. My name is Nina Sumota. I'm the program lead for criminology and sociology, law and politics at St. Mary's. I also teach on the criminology and sociology program, and this is a BSc in criminology and sociology that I'm here to give you a little bit more information about. So the study of criminology and sociology, what does that entail? You might even wonder, what on earth do criminologists and sociologists do? And primarily we are concerned, obviously, in kind of understanding crime and deviance, how it's defined, but also engaging and explaining the criminological imagination and the sociological imagination. How do we think about crime, from time to time? That can change. How does the law adapt to different attitudes in society about crime and punishment? So there are a variety of themes that we actually deal with. So I'm going to tell you a little bit more about what we actually do at St. Mary's. So in your first year of, just to say that in the first year, all of the modules are compulsory, because we are trying to get you to understand the basis and the foundation of criminology and sociology. Criminology is a relatively new discipline, and it rests on the foundations of sociology, which is an established discipline. So we have deliberately combined both these disciplines, brought them together, and put together an exciting program, and offer that provides both the depth and breadth of knowledge to students. So in the first year, typically, students will learn how to define, to describe, and identify key arguments, concepts, and the different theoretical frameworks that we need to get used to and understand, both in criminology and sociology. And in the second year, we move on to the application stage, where we are applying this knowledge to assess, to evaluate, to discuss, and review things together in the class. And in the final year, we advance that knowledge, where students will critically evaluate, but also analyze and compare key issues that we are dealing with, but also it is also preparing you as individual independent learners working towards your final dissertation project. So let's see, in terms of how we bring this together, we have just recently also refreshed. Every 5 years in higher education, we have to review and refresh our offer. We have just recently done that. And again, we have kind of tried to build our offer to students based on the subject knowledge and expertise that the team at St. Mary's have, which we bring together. It is research informed. All of the small team, but diverse team, we bring together our kind of research experience directly to our students in the classroom. So it's both focus on research, but also on policy development, both of which are really important for informing future careers, be it in criminal justice or social policy. So that is why the link to employability is something that we kind of keep reminding students in the course of the delivery of our teaching on a day-to-day basis, and also keeping in kind of discussion always throughout the teaching are issues to do with diversity and inclusivity. Not only are we a diverse team, it's the same with the psychology program, because I know many colleagues there as well. This is a particular emphasis at St. Mary's as well, in relation to not just who is teaching you, but also how we build in diversity and inclusion into the delivery of our subject knowledge. So giving you an idea then about the structure, this is typical in any university that you might go to study. The semester is drawn up into two, the academic year is drawn up into 2 semesters typically, and at St. Mary's you will study 3 modules in the first semester, which is investigating criminal justice, social theory and social divisions, and debates in crime and society. Investigating criminal justice is getting you knowledge about the criminal justice system and the English legal context, and who are the different agencies in relation to the criminal justice system, what are their roles and functions typically. This also provides students with kind of policy knowledge of some of these, where some of these institutions are in relation to policy reform or criminal justice reform in England and Wales, and how that also has some kind of relevance and connect to Scotland and Northern Ireland. So social theory and social divisions is typically getting students to understand the theory in relation to sociology, and which is really quite important. So setting the context early on with our students, getting them informed about sociological theory, thinkers like Durkheim, Karl Marx, Max Weber, and really trying to question whether the frameworks in relation to how societies organize themselves, are they still relevant today? And in what context? And therefore, we also have debates in relation to crime, social issues, social problems, but also in relation to law and order and punishment, which remain quite topical issues. And it really generates interest in amongst our student community when they discuss some of these issues. So the debates module is particularly interesting and quite popular with our students. Thanks. Next slide, please. Thank you. So in semester 2, again, these are core modules. You'll again be studying in introduction how important research methods is. So we start right from the first year, and this is helping you develop and understand the research process, how research design should be undertaken by a scholar at university, and this will culminate in your final year dissertation project. The theoretical introduction to crime and human rights, again, is quite important. Understanding the theories that sit behind the criminological framework, but also increasingly how human rights is becoming really important within criminology as well, and developing an understanding about that. And then understanding social life encourages students to really appreciate the inequalities in our society. We study race, gender, class, age, all of these different layers, and how do they interact with social institutions, but also with the state. So we develop some understanding around that. So these are 3 core modules, total 6 core modules that students will study in their first year. And thinking about, you might get similar sounding modules or similar content, in the delivery elsewhere in other institutions. It's pretty common, but it's also the emphasis at St. Mary's is how we deliver that teaching to our students. Typically, you'll have lectures, you'll have seminars, tutorials. We also encourage students to, and get work-based learning, get that experience in, but also preparing you for that independent level of study. How we do this is exactly how we try to make an effort in the classroom to demystify, the problems and concerns that criminologists usually, or sociologists actually deal with. What is the imagination? What is the thinking? What are the frameworks and concepts that help us to make sense of the world around us, the social phenomenon, or if we are talking about crime and justice or punishment issues in our society. So there are many myths. So the first thing that we do is get students to really understand the value and significance of evidence. We also have animated discussions, we have role plays, we have case studies, and this really allows us to guide students through their learning journey. And it's the knowledge through the books is really important and vital, but equally the emphasis throughout our program is its application to practice and to policy, because we know and understand that that's where the direction in after the 3 years of learning will lead to some form of employment. And this is the way we hopefully transform the student learning journey with us whilst they are at St. Mary's for 3 years. Next slide, please. And just to give you a flavor, what you might go on to study in your second year is a flavor of modules. Some are core and the others are optional. So on the top core modules, we have punishment and society. We study about how modernity impacts the globalization, how that impacts different societies in different ways. And as you can appreciate, we have plenty to discuss these days. And in relation to punishment in society, we are trying to assess our attitudes towards punishment, understanding the theories of punishment, and what is the impact, how much we punish, who do we punish, and how. So these are really interesting questions that we develop and discuss in that module. And of course, again, applied research methods is really important. It's a social science after all. And then that helps again with this development of knowledge, like my colleague Carolina was explaining, in terms of quantitative and qualitative methods, and how a student might apply those methods in their final year dissertation project. And then we have a bunch of other modules that are optional, like criminalizing social problems, the psychology of crime, representation and multiculturalism, in which we discuss issues of plural societies and how they deal with difference, body, gender, and sexuality. And we also have contemporary forms of slavery, trafficking, and organized crime. And we also encourage students to take up workplace learning opportunities as well through our modules that are delivered centrally by our university colleagues in the Center for Workplace Learning. And in your final year, similarly, the pattern is the same. You will study core modules that are spread across the 2 semesters, Criminology, New Perspectives, where we try to question and engage and critically kind of engage with the idea that it's just individuals who commit crime. And who else can commit crime? Can corporations commit crime? Can states commit crime? So we kind of deal with what are the new horizons in relation to criminology, where are we actually developing research? And for example, border criminologies, what does that entail? Law enforcement in the context of globalization at our borders, and so on. So some really interesting discussions shape up there. And then we have a dissertation, which goes across the 2 semesters, but also a shorter version of the dissertations, should students choose to do that, is called the research essay. So it's not as prolonged, it's almost 5,000 words, but you have to kind of develop a strong research essay plan that you will review via the literature, the scholarship available on a particular subject you're interested in writing about. And you're, of course, like Carolina said, everybody is assigned a research supervisor. Some of the very interesting modules that we are offering to our final year students as options are modern slavery, identification, support and care of victims and survivors, which is again, there are no nationally or internationally even recognized standards on identifying, supporting and caring for victims or survivors of modern slavery, human trafficking and exploitation. And this is something I'll say a little bit more about in a moment. Terrorism and political violence, another module, representations of crime, how they are represented in the media. Again, very topical, very interesting discussion. Stalking and abuse campaigns and advocacy is a really specialist module again, kind of reflecting the research, but also the policy experience of some of our colleagues. And this again offers an opportunity, not just students walking away with their BSc degree in criminology and sociology. The modules on stalking and abuse and modern slavery will also give you some additional certificates of knowledge. For example, the stalking awareness for education environments delivered through that particular module. And of course, it goes without saying, if you haven't done work experience in your second year, you'll also get the opportunity, should you wish, to do that in your final year. Next slide, please. So in relation to student enrichment, and this is what I wanted to particularly focus on, I also teach and I'm responsible for the MA in Human Trafficking, Migration and Organized Crime at St. Mary's. It is a natural progression from our undergraduate to the master's level that students can take up. We are linked closely, the master's and the teaching on the master's is linked closely to the Bakita Center for Research on Slavery, Exploitation and Abuse at St. Mary's. It's a flagship research center where we are looking at applying what we learn from research exercises or evaluation, and how do we transfer that to education and training practitioners in the sector. So it's a really important way, an exciting way of getting contemporary knowledge directly through our researchers and experts directly to the students in the classroom. And this is how students benefit, but also inspire themselves as to which direction they might actually go in. And we also have other student enrichment opportunities through our Criminology and Sociology Society. And one might think, well, what careers might we end up in? So typically criminal justice agencies like the police, probation service, youth justice services, prison service, Crown Prosecution Service, and so on. But also our students look for opportunities in the charitable sector. You might also go work for think tanks, market research, Maury doing kind of polls on social attitudes and surveys, should you be interested in that kind of thing. Also teaching and opportunities, any opportunities in local government. So it's giving you a broad set of skills that are transferable, but also equally opening opportunities for our graduates in a range of sectors. So that's kind of on careers and employability. I don't know if there's a next slide. But yeah, so that's from me, and thank you very much.
Thanks, Nina. Hi, everyone. So I'm Courtney McGregor, and I am a third-year psychology student. I'm just going to start off by kind of briefly capturing my experience as a mature learner who's studying psychology, and then I'll go on to the societies and the student union that we have at the university, as well as giving you just some advice from me personally, but also letting you know how I feel I've developed as a person throughout my 3-year journey. Well, 2.5 years so far. So yeah, as you can see, I'm a mature learner. When I started university, I had been out of school for 10 years. So that was very scary for me. I also went to school in South Africa. So just an added kind of nervousness of how I was going to manage this all. And to be honest, as you can see, and from what's coming up, I've really put myself out there, and I've definitely developed in many different ways, which I'll explain in a minute. But some advice I'd give personally as a mature learner, I would say use student services and get as much support as possible. So whatever university you choose is going to have student services and support that they can offer you. Take advantage of that. You're paying student fees, that is included in it. Make sure that you're using it. So anything from accommodation services or well-being, like they're just incredible. Even employability services, I mean, I've used them before for multiple things, helping me with finding part-time jobs, work placements, but also one thing was my CV. Being someone out of school for 10 years, I had a CV that I was using that I thought I was very proud of, and I went to employability services and they looked at it for 1 second and went, oh, you know, the entire format, you need to change this, you need to work on this, like this is what employers are looking for. And you know, I was so impressed with them because I thought, wow, I'd never even considered something as simple as this. I thought I'd do, you know, I thought this is what people were looking for, and actually just getting that support made such a difference. So definitely use those services. Get involved academically and join clubs and societies. So what I mean by getting involved academically, I mean, you know, volunteer for things you can. I'm a student representative as well. I've been doing that for 3 years now, and that's something that I volunteer within the psychology program, and I love it. It helps me to connect not only with the students but also with the lecturers, and to kind of help share, you know, student voices and opinions. It gives me kind of a purpose in that. Joining clubs and societies. So as I said, I am the president of the Psychology Society, but you know what, like the universities, again, wherever you go, will have clubs and societies, hopefully, that you can join. These are just fantastic opportunities to meet like-minded people, get involved, do something else, give yourself a bit of a more well-rounded kind of experience at university. And also it opens quite a lot of doors for you, because you never know who you might meet while you're at these things. Moving on to my experience as a psychology student, obviously this is very personal to me being at St. Mary's, and I find that the course is very engaging. The staff are absolutely wonderful. Like Carolina mentioned, obviously we're quite a small cohort in the psychology program, so for me personally, that made all the difference, and that's some advice I'd give to you when considering what kind of university you want to go to or what course you're looking for specifically. Think about how big the courses are. I knew, being a mature student, that I felt that I was going to need extra support anyway. Also, I'm quite a loud person. I like to share my opinions. I like to be heard. And to me, the thought of perhaps joining a course that had 200 students per se in some of these large universities, I just knew that I was probably going to end up being just a number and not really having an opportunity to share my thoughts. And, you know, I obviously can't compare to that because I haven't been in that environment, but at St. Mary's, I 100% feel supported in every way. Again, because it's a smaller class, there's, you know, you get a lot more time with your lecturers. You can have those kind of one-to-ones. You are a person, you do have that identity, and it does make a difference, especially in driving your motivation. For example, you know, the more you feel connected, the more you want to work, the harder you want to try. With regards to the course structure, again, just referring to St. Mary's, but I'm sure might be very similar. So with us for the last couple of years, we only actually had about 9 hours contact time, which is actually amazing when you think of it. You know, you are studying full time, and obviously you do go home and you use that time to study further, but it's actually way more manageable than I thought it would ever be in terms of having time to do part-time jobs. So I've currently got 2 part-time jobs. I work within hospitality, and I also work as a student ambassador for the university, which is really handy because I'm always there, so it kind of makes sense. But you know, that's something as well, look out for with your course structure. Make sure that you can have enough time to work around the other things that you have going on. And then I'm also a commuter. Oh, sorry, just going back. Sorry, we jumped ahead a slide. If we can go back 1 slide, sorry. That's fine, I can talk about. Sorry, thanks. So I'm a commuter student as well. So I'm sure most mature learners will probably be commuting to campus. I would just say, make sure before you choose a campus that you're looking at how accessible it is. Again, with St. Mary's, I'm very lucky. We've got lots of bus routes. There's lots of the trains, the Strawberry Hill train station's right there. And it's really easy, like with parking and things like that. So for me, it just made a lot more sense for what I was looking for. But bear that in mind when you're looking around, make sure that you go there first and you're remembering that. I would say as well, make the most of your travel time. Again, because I sit on the bus for an hour, that really helps me. I use all that time to catch up on emails and stuff like that. So 2 birds, 1 stone. But also what I mean by that is, you know, if you are going to be traveling a couple hours to university, don't just go in for a couple hours, do your course, then go home. Make the most of your journey. go sit in the library. If your university, if it's like St. Mary's, we have a commuters lounge, which is incredible. So that's just a small, like more kind of private space for students, specifically commuters, who can go there and you can get some work done, and there's a little kitchen, couches, things like that. And it just makes that kind of day worth it. You can make it a 9 to 5 and really make the most of it. Thank you. Next slide. Perfect. So student union. So hopefully wherever you're looking, they'll have a student union. So student unions run kind of separately to the university, and it's run by the students themselves, which is great. So they can help you with anything from academic support to, again, clubs, societies. The student union run all the additional events. So all the campaigns such as Black History Month we've just had, they'll do charity fundraisers, they do the Freshers Fair, and again, they oversee the running of the clubs and societies. So with regards to clubs, there's like 24 clubs that we have at St. Mary's, but obviously societies as well. There's, as you can see, 26 of them, and there's a really large variety. So I have had the pleasure this year of being selected as the president of the Psychology Society, which is amazing. And it's a fantastic opportunity, and also, you know, a really big responsibility that I've chosen to do alongside my academics. And I think that if someone had asked me when I first started if I ever saw myself in this position, I would have laughed, because I think that that's really, you know, something that I thought, how am I going to manage my academics? Not only my academics, but going above and beyond that. And, you know, throughout my years, as I've gained confidence as a learner and through the skills that I've developed, I've then felt capable to, choose my time wisely and find a way to make this a part of my experience as well. And it's the best thing that I've ever done. Just a couple of advice about how I've developed as a person, and just some advice I'd give to you. But yeah, sorry, just going back to the society, I will just say something we're doing next week, for example, is we're having a movie night on campus for Halloween, and we're actually joining with the Criminology and Sociology Society. So there's lots of opportunities, again, to get involved, do lots of fun things that are academic as well as non-academic related. But yeah, just so how I've developed as a person, I'm definitely more confident. Like I said, 10 years being out of school, I didn't really know where I'd stand academically or whether I'd fit in. And I think that I've definitely found my place. Obviously, that didn't happen straight away. And I think it definitely takes time. And, you know, it did take a lot of effort from me as a person, not the effort you would think is challenging, but actually just kind of little things, you know, putting yourself forward, volunteering for things, signing up, being engaging, and things like that have helped me develop, you know, my confidence skills, my communication skills. Also being at university has completely inspired me. I think before this, I was working full-time in hospitality, and I wasn't exactly very proud of what I was doing, but, you know, I had a job and I knew how to do it, but I always knew that there was something more that I wanted. And now that I'm at university, I feel like so many doors have opened up for me if I want to pursue them, and I definitely do. I'm already looking into master's programs and even considering doing a PhD, which if you'd asked me 2-3 years ago, you know, even 10 years ago, I would have laughed at the idea of spending so much time studying, but actually I can't get enough of it. And the more I'm in that environment within, you know, the university and having supportive people around you, the more you actually do want to, you know, excel and try hard. And yeah, again, as the president, I used to only be focused on my academics, and now I'm kind of got this additional enrichment in my life. It adds just another layer, not only on my CV, but also just for me as a person, learning completely different skills. Forget about writing essays. Now I'm learning how to kind of manage 30 people in a society and put together a calendar and fun events. So it's definitely challenging me in different ways. And then lastly, Jed, just a couple bits of advice from me. As a mature student, there's always going to be something. And this was something that I learned right in the beginning of my course, was when I think I had a shift coming up for one of my jobs, and I had an assignment that was also coming up, and I felt really overwhelmed. And I think I rang my sister and I said, you know, I think I'm just going to call work and I'm just going to cancel it. You know, I don't want to, I can't work this weekend. I'm going to work on my assignment. You know, it's fine. It's just one shift I'm going to cancel. And my sister said to me, there's always going to be something. And if you start canceling, you know, your life around you, you're never going to get through these 3 years, because you're going to end up just completely getting overwhelmed with university work, and you're not going to, you know, do everything else you need to do, have a social life, have part-time jobs and other responsibilities. And it was the best thing I ever heard, because I think after that I realized that time management really is key. And like I said before, it's totally manageable. You just need to find a way to fit that into your schedule, and don't cancel out everything else you need to do in life, because as a mature student, I'm sure you've got lots of other things you need to do as well, and it is definitely manageable. And the last two ones would be the first one to speak. That sounds a bit like out of context, but especially we recently had online learning, and that was something that, you know, you go on a Zoom call, no one says anything, no one turns their cameras on. That can be really, really difficult to engage with people and make friends. And I think forget on camera, even face to face, you know, you're going to come across lots of different students. You've just got to remember everybody's in the same boat as you. Maybe not in your personal life, but I think, you know, everybody's learning the same things you're learning at the same time, and you're actually got so much more in common than you actually think you do. So be the first one to say hi, be the first one to say, you know, how's your day? And you'll really be surprised how many people you'll meet and the experiences you'll learn from other people. And then lastly, put yourself out there. So I think that goes without saying, like I've said, you know, volunteer for anything you can do, obviously if you have the time, but, you know, volunteer, get involved. I've become a student ambassador, and I think that was really life-changing for me, as well as with the people that I've met, and again, feeling more connected to the university. And I think one of the reasons why I really drive that home is because we actually did a psychology study a couple of years back, and we learned about how important it is for students to actually feel this student identity and this feeling of belonging, and what that actually does for you, and how that motivates you, and how that kind of increases your likelihood of staying not only in the course, but actually having better academics. And it's this idea of, you know, feeling like you are a student, feel like you belong. And again, being out of school for so many years, you can go into this thinking, oh, okay, I have my life, but then I'm also studying. But I think the more you identify yourself as a student, and the more you kind of start feeling connected and feeling like you belong there, the more you will feel more passionate about it. And I do believe that that will reflect in your academics and your general well-being. So yeah, create that student identity, get involved, do what you can, and yeah, I wish you all good luck. Thank you.
Okay, so sorry. Yeah, so my name is Mandy. I'm just going to talk a bit about the UCAS Hub before I hand over to Jess. So the UCAS Hub is a really good platform where you can do all your research. You can add your favorite universities. You can calculate your tariffs. And you can actually save your research there as well. There's also a personal statement builder too. So this is separate to the UCAS registration. So some students do get confused in colleges, but the UCAS Hub is a great place to register and start your research for universities. You can actually look at during location as well. And you get a big map of the UK, so you can actually choose the universities where you want to go to. And then the next slide.
Fab. Thanks, Andy, and thanks so much to our kind of panelists as well.
Let me just go back. Sorry,
it's all right, no worries. It's okay. It's going to get sent around afterwards anyway, so it's not the end of the world. Really, that was just just to show some of the resources that we'll be sending links to after the session that you might find helpful to kind of start that journey on making your choices. So yeah, thank you so much for attending. I wonder, we've not got any kind of questions in the Q&A box, but I was wondering if perhaps maybe Courtney or maybe Mandy could kind of say what the sort of like the number one thing to consider is when making that initial choice. Is like, okay, what course, what university, what kind of the main thing to consider is, if you want to kind of come in on that, Courtney or Mandy.
I'll let Courtney go first because she's
Lovely. To be honest, it's probably something I've already mentioned, but for me, the biggest thing that's impacted my studies was definitely the class size. Having the amount of students within that classroom setting, I think does make a difference for me. Again, I'm quite a loud person, so I think feeling like I have an identity in that classroom, feeling like I can speak and also being able to connect with the lecturers on a more personal level has just really inspired me. It's made the difference for me.
For me, I think the one advice I'd do, class size is definitely something that you may want to consider, but also going to the university and getting the feel of the environment as well. I think a lot of students feel that they go to open days or they're on a Saturday, they may not be able to make it, but universities do just have campus tours. So at St. Mary's every Wednesday, you're entitled to a campus tour. So if the open day doesn't fit in with your schedule, get in contact with the university and they can organise something separate for you.
Thanks. Yeah, that's really interesting. So would you recommend that perhaps if you can't make an open day or you can't make one of the kind of the scheduled open events for students to kind of contact the university directly, like for instance like the widening participation team or marketing team or whoever, to actually kind of request that?
Yeah, and like I said, yeah, we do separate campus tours for individuals like that.
Yeah, exactly. Great, cool. Okay, fab. Well, we've reached the end of our time, so I'll let everyone kind of shoot off. I know the lecturers in particular have other meetings. I'm sure Courtney, you've got work to do, final year. I'm sure you appreciate that reminder. So thanks so much, guys, for being involved. Courtney, was really fantastic to hear from you. So like I said, the recording will be shared afterwards, and all of the links and the presentation, etc., will be passed around. All the best for your choices and your applications, and hopefully you'll be on a course kind of this time next year, a few years away from Courtney's position. Cool. All right, fab. Thanks very much, everyone.
Take care. Bye.
Cheers. Have a lovely day.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.